those dogs done the rest. I just kept shepherd over them, and of course they became real popular in the 70s, and they're still going today. So
describe him in the Chief in the Woods. How did he operate in the woods?
well, he cut him loose, and he never opened until he smelled the coon. He didn't stand on his head. He didn't fly on the track. He just drove it on out. And I've seen him tree on trees the log dogs wouldn't even get up on. And we hunt him in the snow, zero weather. I had fellas come from down south to breed a female, 70 degrees to get to my place and be 5 above zero in a foot of snow. I had good pleasure out of making them go hunting. They couldn't believe that dog could run a coon in the snow like that.
How did you come to the decision to promote him as a stud dog, and how many pups did he have? And thirdly, did he cross better on any one particular line of dogs than others?
Well, it didn't seem to make any difference what type of female you bred her to. You'd get something that'd run and tree a coon. Now, at that time, the banjo dogs were very popular also, one of the most popular. Raymond Motley and just different fellows that had the old string of dogs like Martin with White Cloud dogs over there in Bloomington, Illinois. It seemed like they all wanted to try a little bit. The banjo dogs, actually Banjo 2 and Johnson Banjo, those females crossed good with Old Chief. And you can tell, looking at 7th-generation papers on a lot of these dogs, that old Johnson Banjo, of course it's been 50 years ago, they're starting to breed out. The papers aren't big enough to hold them all now. But they were good, they made a good mix with the Finn River Chief dogs.
How did you come to the decision to promote him as a stud dog? What made you decide to start breeding him to begin with?
Ray Charles could have seen that. All you had to do is pick the book up and pick the book up, and you'd see it like old Rock, CB, Finn River Dan, and Finn River Queen, and like I said, Bean Blossom Buck, Gaines Finisher. Them dogs was all winning everything. That's how he got popular. All I was a carrier. I took the money in from it. I was trying to get some of that $3,000 back. I wish I had about 100 straws out of him today. One would be hell.
How many pups did you end up with or out of Chief? You know that number?
I never did get a report from UKC on it, but we bred over 200 females at that time, and that was a lot of females because the transportation back in them days, you'd have to drive 1,000, 1,500 miles to get a female bred. Some of those guys, they couldn't ship them by these shippers, so he, for what he did breed, they showed him. I haven't got enough time to tell you to listen to them.
Yeah. All righty, let's move on over to Lee. Lee, you're probably best known for owning Logan's Wild Clover, who was the son of Hardwood Bozo and Logan's Wild Julie, who reproduced quite a few of the top dogs in the woods as well as in the breeding pen. Tell us about Clover's mother, Julie, how you came to own her and how she performed in the woods, and how you came to the conclusion to breed her to Bozo.
Well, we raised her for a pup. Actually, she was a full sister. We raised Eileen and won the world hunt Russell had. Pretty good litter. I think it was 5 or 6 grand nights out of that litter. And actually, my buddy Ted sold her to another friend of mine who had a big Dodge garage. And she was a little mouthy, and I could stand at my garage across the street and listen to her bark. I walked over and I asked him, I said, "Would you like to sell her?" And he said, "Oh yeah," I said, I'll sell her. I said, "Well, I don't really have the money." He said, "That's fine, just go ahead and take her." So I took her home, and she turned into be quite the dog, and she produced quite well. Of course, Clover was probably one of her better, but that wasn't all of them. And he went on to carry the line on. Before that, mainly I kept mostly females. And Clover, I've only actually had a couple stud dogs, and I'm not a big breeder, and I'm not crazy about people running into the house to breed to them. I think I had 4 or 5, maybe 6 ads on Clover in his life. He had 185 pups. Less than 100 of them ever lived. And if you figure up percentage, over 40% of his pups were either night champion or grand knight, so it's not too bad. And, so that's where it's at.
Yeah. How did Julie operate in the woods?
Well, she had a little trouble when she was young, when she got into grapevines, and I was about to shoot her one night, and I looked up and she finally had a coon in the grapevines. After that, she never looked back. She went through and made grand night pretty good. I had a fellow hunting with me one night who had a lot of dogs, and we were going into the tree, and he said, "Lee, just stop here for a minute," and we stopped. And I didn't know what he wanted, and we started to walk out. His name was Blaine McGill. And he said, "Lee," he said, "I think that's probably the hardest tree dog I've ever heard." And when she was young, maybe, 18, 22 years old, she was a ball mouth tree dog. She just turned it over and started a tree, and she was quite the dog. So.
Yeah, let's talk about Clover for a minute. How did he operate in the woods? And was he an easy starter?
Yep. Yeah, I turned a couple kitten coons loose in an apple orchard, and then, apple trees aren't very high, and he was running around there, and I was climbing trees and shaking them out, and he started treeing. Then before I was done, he killed all 3 of them. So, and about a month or 2 after that, I took him out with Julie, and she treed, and I'm waiting at the tree, no clover. And I got back, the truck was windy and raining, and threw her in. I listened, he's up the other side of the mountain, and he's treed and had a coon by himself. So he was probably 9, 10 months old then. I never really worried about getting them started. If you watch dogs, you can always tell when they start getting gamey, and that's whether they're 6 months old or 16 months old, that's when you want to go.
What was it that he threw in his pups that you liked most about him and his pups?
Well, he threw a lot of good pups. A lot of them were like him. I've said before, lots of times you'll get pups like with breed Clover. They might actually be more like their grandparents than they were their mother and dad. But if you breed a good family of dogs, which I felt he was out of, and a lot of them went back to John's dogs. He went back on his mother's side to Lone Pine dogs, and they're all Finley River. And it just, he was very cold-nosed. He was a pretty fast-track dog. He was good at getting off by himself, and he had good locate. You could call him a long ways off. When you heard him locate once, you knew who was located.
And he threw a lot of those same traits into his pup?
Yeah, he did. And another thing that I try to, he and his mother and a lot of those dogs, I never had to shock them. I never had to beat on them. They were straight dogs, and if you did have to do it, maybe only had to do it once. They wanted to treat of coons. You didn't have to shoot every coon out to them. You went and patted them, they were just as happy as if you shot them. So I always said, if I got to shoot every coon, I'm leading the wrong dog.
All righty, we'll move on over to Russ here, talk to him for a second. Russ, you probably had more success in the competition hunts than about any coon hunter in the country. Describe what you think it is that has allowed you to win so many big hunts, and particularly world hunts.
Well, first you got to find a dog that you depend on. When he tells you something, he's got to do it. And I've hunted as high as 168 nights in a row, never come in without treeing a coon. And I was very opposite than what my dogs had to have the meat, or I had to have it won.
Yeah, well, you had Demon, Striker, Pac-Man, Eileen, Awesome Annie, Janice Joplin, and the most recent one was Big D. It's obviously one thing to make the finals of a world hunt, but to come out on top of so many. What is your secret to that?
Hard work. Stay out there. Understand that dog. That if he tells you something, you better put him on the paper, he better do what he's told you he was gonna do.
How would you rank the hounds you've owned over the years in terms of which one was the best and why?
Two of the dogs, I had two favorite dogs of all the dogs I had. Monroe over here, he's wanting me to say Janet's Joplin, but I can't say that. Striker, the Striker dog was a grandson of old Finn River Chief. He could run a track beyond any man's imagination. And he could run a deer too. He could run that deer down and catch him. He caught 15 deer and held them till I got there. I mean, it's amazing how fast that dog was. One thing about that dog, he never would cross a road. If he ever crossed a road, he'd quit the deer immediately, and the next thing you hear, he was treed. And always, 95% of the time, you always looked at the coon. And the second dog was a little red dog that I just got killed 4 years ago. We won this Walker Days, I think it's 4 years ago this weekend. Then 30 days later, I got her killed. But that dog was, I've hunted with 97 world champion dogs of all the people out here. And I wouldn't trade her for all the world champions together if I could have her back.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's also interesting each one of you started with something other than a walker, and it's, I don't know, everybody here always says you finally saw the light, I guess, but ironic Russ has kind of ended up with something else here, but one that special is, if you could pick just one hound from your past and bring it back to us to own and hunt, which one would that be and why?
The little red dog.
Little red dog, I got you. You're also one of the first coon hunters to collect and freeze semen on your hounds. Which was the first hound that you actually had collected, and what year was that?
1978 or 79, I had a dog called Shell, and I collected him. And since you said that, my buddy sitting over here, I had one straw left, and we bred that about 4 months ago, 4.5 months ago. We took that last straw of that semen out of Shell and bred it to his penny dog.
Yeah, matter of fact, if you don't mind me saying that, he just turned in the litter registration today off of old Shep, so going to be another litter registered off of him in just here in the next week or so.
That should carry me the rest of my life.
Alrighty, next I've got some questions here that they gave me that came in from the Treeing Walker Association's Facebook page. And Russ, we're gonna just stay with you. And this is a questions for each one of you. Question came in from Travis Bowling, asked, which hound in the past had the most influence on the breed, and what hound presently has the most influence? Now that's just from what you see, not necessarily your own, can be your own, but most influence on the breed and the hound presently that has the most influence.
Pac-Man probably has been the best, producer that I ever had. There's a lot more dogs out of Pac-Man than any dog I ever bred, and Shep would be the second.
All right, same question to you, Lee.
Well, I'd have to say Clover without a doubt. And probably the next one would be Wessel's Wild Casey, who was out of Clover. These are dogs that I'm associated with. And I don't really line breed, but probably my best cross, one of the best crosses I ever made was I bred an aunt to her nephew, which was Clover. I bred him back to Logan's Wild Genie, who was out of Riverbend Flag, and that was where Joey and Casey and all those dogs came from. Those two influenced me a lot.
What do you think, we'll go back to Lee here for a second, what about today? What do you feel is the most influential hound today?
That's a good question. There's a lot of good ones out there, I think. I think the guys are doing a good job. We talk about the semen and stuff, which is great. I wished I had some on Old Clover, but I don't. But I always said as a breeder, if you're doing your job, the dogs ought to be getting better. So if they're getting better, what do we need to go back for? But Yeah, there's a lot of guys out there doing a great job, and there's a lot of good dogs. I don't get a chance to hunt with them all. I don't hit quite the hunts that I used to hit, but I'm impressed. They do pretty good, so.
John, same question.
Well, naturally, I'd have to say Finn River Chief. And I'd say next to him, it'd be a toss-up between Beaver Lake Lightning and Finn River Joe. From what I've seen of their pups and what they've done.
All right, next question. We'll just stay with you, John. Comes from Brent Brown, who's asking, how many average to decent dogs did you each go through before you got that one special dog?
The first one I got was pretty special. I don't know what you mean by special, but that Finn River Spot was special. Of course, Chief was too, and then came Finn River Joe. And I got a whole list of them I could tell you, but I'd have to say Spot, actually. And he got shot. Farm kid shot him one night. Him and we had a grandson of Merchant's Folly hunting, and there wasn't no livestock in the timber, nothing. And kid's dad said they was going to town, and if any dogs come around, they'd shoot them. Well, they crossed across the road from where they was hunting. Tree, like I said, there was no livestock or anything, but that kid, he was, I don't know if he's just right or not, but he liked to shoot things. He loaded up a shotgun with double-aught buckshot and went down there and killed both of them dogs. So, but I still think about that old dog. My brother always said Spot was the best dog I ever owned. I don't argue with him. Everybody's got an opinion.
How about you, Lee? How many dogs, average dogs, did you go through before you got that first one that you just really liked?
A lot. I had black and tans, blue ticks, walkers, flock dogs, red bones, but probably my favorite, one of my favorites was Jeannie, the cross between Moon Pine Joe and Riverbend Flag. Before we were asked a question, what dogs crossed well and what dogs didn't, but give Russell a little credit there. Probably on the